Timothy. You're live.
Okay. Good evening, everyone that has joined us here on this conversation. I see quite a number of people that are coming to be able to join us here, and we really appreciate that you've spent your time to come and, hear what is happening in a different political party here, and also listen to what different conversation we'll have with Honorable Alice Alaso here. But before we even go any further, one of the things that I really esteem myself with is prayer, because this country's motto is "For God and my country," and I'd like to start with prayer there so that we can be able to pivot this conversation going forward. So let's do that together. Heavenly Father, we thank you and we bless you. King of glory, we honor you. We thank you because you have blessed Uganda. And Father, even as we indulge in this conversation, we pray that, Holy Spirit, you're here with us. I pray that whatever we deliberate on, may it be for the furthering of your kingdom and your country. May it bring peace in this country, because there's no other peace than you, Jesus. We thank you and we bless you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
So I see quite a number of people that have joined us. Ambassador Edith Grace Sempala, thank you for joining us. I see Gracie is also here. Sylvain is also here. We are also streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook there. We're on Zoom here, but also we're on Spaces. My Spaces there, and we're having a conversation today with Honorable Alice Alaso, who is the acting national coordinator of the Alliance for National Transformation. Good evening, Honorable.
Good evening, Timothy. It's a joy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to the conversation, and surely good evening to everyone who is participating tonight.
And it's very good that we are participating with you on this conversation today. And would like you to really expound on that. I know you and I have met this week, but I wanted to start with Happy New Year, because it's the first time we are interacting like this for the first time this year. So Happy New Year to you, Honorable there.
Oh, thank you very much, Timothy. Happy New Year to you. I really believe that it should be a Happy New Year. We're looking forward to one having more work done in the party, but we are also hoping that God will answer certain prayers concerning our nation. Hopefully that we'll see things move from bad to a better situation in the country.
That's very true. I see Cynthia Ayeza. Thank you for joining us, and we're grateful that you've been able to come and join us here. So, Honorable, let's dig into our conversation here. A lot has been happening. A lot of movement in the Democratic Party. A lot of movement in the FDC. They have weekly press conferences going on there. We also have a pressure group called the People's Front for Transition.
You still write for the New Vision, or was it I think it was the New Vision you used to write for, no?
I think there was, sorry for the error.
The reason I'm asking is I was just looking here at my to-do list, and I need to find somebody to write a cover story about the books and what we're trying to achieve in newspapers. I was wondering about you.
Okay, I'm going to ask that Cynthia, I hope it's not your mic that is on. It's Nyakato Rusoke. Please mute your mic there so that we can be able to have this conversation with Honorable here. Sorry, we're wondering what. No, I'm back on. Sorry, Honorable there.
Okay.
A lot is happening with different political parties. We're wondering what is happening with the Alliance for National Transformation. Give us a brief. You seem very quiet.
Well, that is the typical expectation in the way political parties are managed in Uganda. In Uganda, it is expected that when you do any little thing, whether it is an internal process, you should be able to shout about it and let the world know. Whether you do nothing, just to stay on the news, you have to speak and speak. That's the typical expectation. The thing about the Alliance for National Transformation is that at inception, some deliberate decisions were made. One of the decisions that we took as leadership of the party was that we were not going to be just merely exciting the public, that we will try to do our work in the most realistic manner. Now, that's not your way of doing political party work, but that is the decision the team that runs the party took. So we talk as and when we consider it very necessary, but we also talk to specific people in specific situation. So for instance, if we do training of all our elected leaders, like we did towards the end of last year, we didn't even find it necessary to tell anybody. Why? Because we thought it was an internal process, equipping our own and helping them to do their work. So now we wondered, if we go shouting about this, how does this help anybody? So such kind of scenarios, if we do, like we were the first party after elections to do a review of the entire electoral process. We went around the whole country, but we again thought the review was going to benefit us and strengthen us internally. And therefore we didn't think it was something to really talk about. I don't know, maybe there is a challenge the way we think, but that is it. That is the decision we've taken. We will do some things. We will publicize some things internally, and I'm sure everybody who is into the day-to-day affairs of the ANT is aware of the ongoing processes in the party. But then there are things that we do for the country. That's when you hear we call the press conference. Lately, we had to decide when the schools were closed, learning institutions of learning were closed, worship places were closed. We took a decision and said, let's champion this matter until its logical conclusion. And I'm telling you, I don't think there's any other political party in Uganda that put in the amount of time and commitment to pushing for the reopening of schools and the including giving write-ups, proposals, and saying, this is how you're going to do it. We propose you do it this way, you structure it this way. We did that as a political party, and we were very public about that one because it was something for public consumption. And that is exactly what we also did for concerning places of worship. I doubt that there is a political party that had its leader even going to the Constitutional Court to petition on matters of reopening places of worship. The ANT donated their leader, and I had to be among the team that went to the Constitutional Court to ask for that. So then we've been doing policy dialogues. When we do policy dialogues, the policy dialogues we've been doing are for a twofold purpose. We do the policy dialogues to develop our own internal policy understanding so that by the end of the 3 or 4 year season, we will not be struggling what aspects to put in the party manifesto or what policy positions to market to the public in Uganda. So we do that partly as an internal process, but also to feed into an external process. So that one, we go more, a bit of it goes public, a bit of it, the actual process, we do it internally, but the outcome is what we publicize. So we've been doing some work. Party meetings are running on normally. We've been formulating a strategic plan for the party. We should be finalizing that in the first week of February, so that as a party, we run professionally. One of the beliefs, the things we strongly believe in the ANT is institutional building. Now, institutional building and functionality, not just for Uganda. We have to begin running the ANT as a functional institution. And so issues of guidelines, issues of policies, issues of strategic frameworks, and all those, we are working on them. We want to get used to them now. And then one morning we will wake up and the good Lord has handed over Uganda to us. We don't want to be grappling with issues. We don't want to run the country around an individual. We want to run the country around policies, around institutional functionality, around strategic frameworks, long-term perspective, medium-term perspectives. That is how we want. And so we are teaching ourselves. It's a painstaking process, by the way. Sometimes I feel like let's also go and issue a threat in public and say, tomorrow morning, all of you Ugandans, you wake up, the ANT has removed Museveni. But I know the fellow will be there the following morning. And then I have to be held accountable for my word. And that's where the other thing comes in. The ANT is a values-based political party. Are we able to work with these values now and work with them in future? Are we going to hoodwink Ugandans? Like I hear a number of political parties when people are talking out there, you hear them promising, give us 100 days. Now we've woken up to a series of 100 days since I think 2001, 100 days come, they go. Another 2 years come, they go. Another 5 years come, they go. So at the ANT, the leadership has advised itself, which I think is reasonable, that we will not issue threats, we will work. We will work on the problem. There is a big problem in this country. Two big problems. One problem is the NRM regime headed by President Museveni, which we all want to work together with other democracy-seeking forces to get rid of. The second problem, which I doubt that there is anybody even thinking of it now, is changing the political culture of this country. The moment President Museveni doesn't wake up, I keep thinking one day he may not just wake up. The day he doesn't wake up, that equation can easily collapse. If all we are thinking about is a get rid of Museveni, the whole thing will just collapse. We could have a reinvention, a much younger version, a new Museveni coming in, maybe a 24-year-old Museveni coming in, and then what will we do? We want to arrive at that point where Museveni is out as the problem with this bad system, but also at that point have an outlook. So where do we take the country to from this point onwards? Because if we don't do that, what faces us is exactly what happened in Zimbabwe. The opposition in Zimbabwe spent all their time, Mugabe, 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 Mugabe. Then one morning, the army helped them and settled the old man and said, now you Mzee sit. And then who is in charge of Zimbabwe? A younger version, a more authoritarian version. And then they have to live longer with that because the opposition had not built the institutional framework they needed to take on. The situation in Sudan is informative. In Khartoum, everybody Bashir, Bashir, Bashir. And then, okay, the army helps, they retire Bashir. And now who do they have? The opposition is weak, it is scattered, and they have the army still playing the tune in Sudan. So that's the kind of outlook we operate with. So going into this year, 2022, people might want to know that we are committed to one major thing, building the infrastructure of the party. And so we are looking for resources left and right. We want to go to the districts and sub-counties and set up the infrastructure that will manage the party for the next 5 years.
Thank you very much, Honorable. That was very elaborate, and also you telling us about structures and policies and trying to do this first in the ANT and then move it on to where the country is. But the question is, wouldn't it be necessary to build a critical mass, especially bring on the other political players to see the value-based system you're talking about moving forward? Because one of the things you've hinted on that is really profound is changing the political culture. Can't we do that with the critical mass of the other political players moving forward? We might have differences, but there's in this diversity, there is uniqueness. Can't ANT champion this across before we get into, like you said, when the man does not wake up?
Well, that would be a noble thing to pursue. But you see, you got to begin by your internal in-house processes. Up to now, we even have members in the ANT who are in ANT, but they have not yet absorbed fully that thing called values-based leadership. Sometimes I follow on the chat, on the various chats, and you find them issuing threats, you find them provoking each other. So even in-house, we have a lot of work to do. So before we can even think of convincing our neighbors, we need to develop that critical mass and the critical understanding within the ANT itself. Secondly, when it comes to relating with the other political organizations or democracy-seeking forces in the country, we are not thinking so much about changing the way they run their affairs, because that borders on, tampering with their ideological disposition. And that would be, I don't know, it would be treated as antagonism, antagonizing them. So we are open to work with them on areas which are agreeable. So we develop a package and say electoral reforms, and then we say, okay, there we can team up. Where they have strength over us, we are happy to have them lead. We are happy to encourage them, and we are happy to follow from behind. Where we think we have any strength, and if they do think we have any strength, at some point we hope that they will declare that they recognize that. Now, where we are currently, I don't want to push the ANT too hard. ANT is in its very formative years. Like any other organization, 3 or 4 years, you are still dealing with internal processes, you are still building networks, you're still building your resource base, you're still training, developing capacity. That is typical organizational growth for you. But then, growth and development rather. But then, as a political party, operating in a context where people are rather impatient with what is going on, we then find ourselves being invited or being expected to participate. So when it comes to participation along with our other friends, most often we find a challenge. The challenge is when they are set to go, maybe we are not yet ready internally. So people might consider that a bit of hesitation, a bit of not giving in a lot. But you see, we have to be fair to ourselves because we have to continue growing and engaging.
Honorable, sticking with, moving away from there, and the people that have joined us, thank you very much for joining us. I see Joan, I see Nyakato there, Richard, thank you very much for joining us. Let's move this conversation to what is really happening on ground. And I'll start with the most recent announcement on the 26th of January, 2022, where Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye made an announcement and said, you know what? We have written to the Alliance for National Transformation to join the People's Front for Transition. And I know that you have received this. The National Unity Platform has received this. The question to you is, what are your thoughts on this? What is your stand? What's your view? What do you think about the People's Front for Transition? And could this be a vehicle that delivers a peaceful transition in this country, in your view?
When it comes to the People's Front for Transition, first, I believe it's a good idea. It's a good idea for people to to come together to champion the fronts that they think can deliver change. As to whether it will deliver now, tomorrow, or never, I do not know. That is a matter that is better left to God, who understands our struggles as a nation. Yes, we got an invitation to participate. Yes, we have it. I got it yesterday, is when I received that invitation to participate in. There is something they called. There is a committee. So the invitation is specific to be part of that committee. Because I say that, I emphasize that because earlier on, we had been invited to join the whole coalition. Now, the leadership of the party considered that invitation against the program of the party and found that we were meant to commence our work in Toro sub-region, a process of party structure building, which was supposed to start in October. And had we found the resources, the plan was to marathon through to end of this year. And so the leadership of the party took a decision that while we are open to, say, getting briefs, while we are not antagonistic, we have no hostility towards the People's Front for Transition, we will not take out the critical leadership of the party or shift the direction of the party towards engaging directly, because we still want to go and become something. You know, the things of coalitions and you know, when groups come together, you don't want to walk there as Alice, Alaso, Ashanu, and then you look behind and you find Ambassador Edith is not there with you, Gans is not there with you, or you don't have Sylvan with you. You don't have people, effectively, you don't have leaders. So if the ANT walks there now, because I, the party leader, or the presidential candidate, General Muntu, we have decided that this is a good thing, and we carry ourselves there, we will look back and say, so who do we have in Koboko when the activities have to be done in Koboko? We will be found missing. When we turn to Serere, we will be found missing. So we will be a hollow thing, masquerading as a tangible, viable, or a formidable force when we have nothing. So that is the basis on which the party leadership took that decision and said, we'll review it after 6 months. So the 6 months will be probably around March or April this year. That's when we'll review. I will be responding to Dr. Besige, both informally and formally, just to let him know that at this present stage, we are not able to engage actively, but we are open to listening, getting information, so that when the leadership meets again, then they will be able to review based on facts and information that will have come. So yes, that is the position of the ANT as of now.
And I'm going to encourage everyone that is both on Twitter Spaces and also here on Zoom. If you have a question for Honorable Alaso, please drop it in the chat. I'll be getting to those questions in a bit. But now I want us to dig into what is actually happening in this country. What's affecting an ordinary Ugandan? We want to come from hawkers, we want to go to fuel, the crisis there. We also want to go as far as discussing Rwanda. We have a general that goes, then we have an agreement that comes up. We want to be able to dig into those. But let's start with what is affecting us the most. Honorable, one of the biggest things, even yesterday as I was moving around, you and I met and had a discussion. I was moving around and there are no hawkers anywhere. They have been banned. We have no tangible reasons why they've been banned. It started with Kampala, the RCC, they are going against it, the minister rubber stamping it, security being heavy in the streets, of Kampala to rubber stamp that. But now the new directive is no other city, municipality should have hawkers. What is the rationale behind this? What is your thought? Why hawkers are being chased? These are people that have businesses that are worth 50,000 shillings to about 200,000 shillings, but also we make it worse. It's already, we're getting to school. They're supposed to be taking children to school. What's the rationale? And help put perspective into this. What's the thinking and what should we do better?
Well, what the government and the management of Kampala City Authority are doing is treating symptoms. They are trying to drive the problem underground. Let me tell you, no woman wants to move around for kilometers with a basket of bananas on her head for a whole day just to get 15,000 shillings. No woman in her right senses will want to do that for fun. It is the situation of urban poverty. It is the situation of poverty in the nation, the joblessness that is making Ugandans resort to very disparate ways of surviving. And that is what is visible as hawkers in the streets of Kampala. So what government of Uganda is trying to do, what it has done, is to say it has pretended that this problem is not there. Chase them. And once they disappear, then we walk around this city showing that we have a clean city, there are no hawkers, and therefore there are no problem. There are no problems. All the people of Kawempe, Katwe, did you know that there is a part of the city called the Forgotten City? It is there, the Forgotten City. There is part of it called Forgotten City. You need to read our manifesto. We discovered that part of the city also. So when you act as if you don't have Bwaise, you don't have Chinawataka, we don't have all those places, then you're creating a worse problem. Because if a person has been surviving and, through hawking, moving around, and now you stop them from earning, that means they don't have food to eat. That means their children cannot go to school. That means they cannot pay for that shack where they sleep. That is going to be a worse situation. My proposal, and indeed the one we had made in the manifesto, is that the question of urban poverty and urban planning should first of all be taken seriously, but that any development of Kampala should mean that Kampala is developing with its people. You cannot develop Kampala or Soroti, Mukono, Wakiso, Jinja, wherever, Luero, by excluding its people. That's not development. You're just building infrastructure. Because until these people have reasonable sources of income, until there are some jobs, I have told you, if those women we see in the street had a job from which they will earn, say 500,000 or 1 million shillings, you don't need to tell them to stop moving from 7 or 6 o'clock carrying bananas on their heads up to 7 or 6 again in the evening. You don't need to tell them. They will just get out of the streets on their own. So our perspective as the ANT is that our cities will have to be well planned. 2, urban poverty has to be squarely faced, but 3, that we will develop the cities with its present occupants. That means creating more jobs. That means creating markets. That means helping improve the rural areas so that some people find opportunity back in the communities where they come from. That means improved wages. Some of those people, yesterday I saw there is a group that is still surviving, and I don't want them to be rounded up after this interview. But I found a group of women still hiding somewhere. And I said, the reason these women are still able to sell fruits around here is because their husbands are enforcers. And So if you paid the enforcer husband better money to look after his family, no enforcer will send his wife to be chased by the orderlies of KCCA. We have a big, big job. And I can only imagine that in the next 2-3 months, maybe that's even too long, the urban poor are going to resurface in another form elsewhere. They will resurface as hawkers if they find space. They will resurface as sex workers, because those ones have not been stopped. They will resurface as drug addicts. They will resurface as robbers, waylaying the rich who have chased them because they cannot stand their sight in their city and in their decent communities. So let this country be prepared. Those hawkers, those children, those unemployed women that you are trying to chase will not disappear. They will resurface as something else.
I want to continue to emphasize, if you're listening to us or watching us both on Spaces there or on Zoom or YouTube, please drop your comment in whichever platform you're on, and we'll be getting to them in a short while there. Honorable, you have spoken about them being a symptom and not really solving the problem. What is the problem that causes hawkers in this country to surface? And even as you said, they're dealing with, this is a knee-jerk reaction by government. What are the solutions? What is causing them to come? And what solutions can we be able to provide? Because I don't think it's one shoe fits all. It's not the same in Kampala, in Soroti, in Gulu, or Mbarara. How do we manage this problem as we see it going forward?
Well, the one problem in this country, as they say, everything rises and falls with leadership. So if you ask me one problem in Uganda, it is leadership. You know why? It is leadership and it is the politics. The politics determines, I like what my friend Yundubo Yokasi Dihande taught me. Politics is about who gets what, when, and where, period. So the people who are managing this country have not considered the poor, the youth, the unemployed, the urban dwellers, the slum dwellers, as a team who should get some resources here and this amount and for this purpose. Consequently, the symptom is unemployment because the resources of the country are going to something else. And so a majority of these people are unemployed. They are unskilled and they are unemployed. And as long as they don't have the skills and the opportunities for employment, then they will have to find a way of surviving. It's like those days of lockdown, who are told that people stay in your homes, don't get out even of your gates. You know, this COVID will kill you. People said, you better meet COVID out there, let it kill you than die of starvation inside the home. And they got out of their homes. So leadership has failed to allow the huge potential this country has to serve its people. Because we have a huge potential in agriculture, we have a huge potential in tourism and industry, but because the way the country is managed in a very corrupt way, in a very manipulative way, in a way that is not people-centered. All that potential, all this potential our country has, is not being put to use. It's not being harnessed for the citizens of. Now, look here, Timothy. How do you explain the droves of Ugandan youth that I see at the airport every day, going to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, some dry desert, to survive on dates? That is the richest fruit they have there. And with those temperatures, leaving behind a country of fresh water, a country of bogoya, pineapple, fene. How do you explain that? If it is not a leadership question, it is a huge leadership question.
Honorable, and I'm glad you have pointed to one of the biggest problems there, but I also want you to expound on this. How do we find solutions to this problem? How do we find solutions, especially because whichever place you walk to in this city, especially let's zero down to Kampala, you go to Wandegea, you find young people. You go to Fairway, you find young people. You go to Abim, you find young people. I was in Amriat, there were young people selling sponges on the streets there. How do we find solutions to this problem? Because I don't think the government is generating enough jobs annually to be able to sap in all these young people there. What are the solutions to stop this?
If there was political will, half of those young people can easily be turned around in less than a year. Here is how. If instead of investing huge amounts of money on classified defense, if instead of the corrupt way this government runs itself and siphons money out, we only improved investment on agriculture and give water for irrigation. We highlighted that in the manifesto. Give water for irrigation to those rural youth in Amuria. And they do off-season production, my friend, off-season production, where they don't have to wait for rain, off-season production. They do it all around the year. How much of a fresh fruit market is there in Europe? How much of it is outside Uganda? We are known to have the best fresh fruits, and we could easily do that. So investing money, unfortunately, agriculture continues to be a matter of rhetoric, a matter where, it's just said during campaigns, but no amount of money is put in there. International commitments are not being adhered to. So my thinking is that if there was a turnaround, invest more in agriculture and create opportunity for marketing, link with markets, standardize production. You see, even those who are trying to do agriculture right now, you find that they have this kind of maize, which is full of, the way they dry it, full of aflatoxins. Then when the Kenyans refuse our maize, then the government wants to quarrel with Kenya. You organize your house, tidy it up, and bring things that are worthy the international market standards, and see if they will refuse to buy your food. So a turnaround in agriculture could be a magic one. Two, I've talked about marketing, and then three, skilling, so that we do these medium enterprises. The fact that somebody is able to hawk merchandise around means that that person already has an enterprising mind. They know how to buy and they know how to sell. So that one can be graduated through a bit of skilling to medium enterprise. And capital of only 300,000 can turn lives around. But as I said, it has to do with political will and the leadership. And it is Ugandans who will decide. We always talk to Uganda about this one. When they are at the peak of their pain, like now, you want to send children to school, you've been chased from selling maize. So you don't even have where to sleep, and you don't even have what to use for taking the child to school. So we've always told Ugandans that when you are voting, vote what you want to see, not what you're being given to eat. Hopefully someday the country will wake up to reality and then do the thing which will help a change of political leadership. And I'm not just saying change it to anybody. I'm saying change it to values-based leadership. Once you have such a team, because we've always had, say, members of parliament, we've had them. Every 5 years, we get them. What they do in parliament is another matter, depending on the values that they believe in and espouse. So hopefully, Ugandans, you begin to be on the lookout. Who of those that offer themselves gives you the promise of integrity, of honesty, of putting the people first, of loving the country before self? Who of those will you give your vote?
Thank you very much, Honorable Alaso. And let me stress that even further. A lot of corridors, especially us who are in the journalism world, have heard about the reason why allegedly the hawkers have been chased from the cities, the municipalities across the country is because it's a security threat. Do you feel the same notion in this direction? Because some of the things the president has said, that the security agencies or forces have been infiltrated by Kawukumi, they cannot tell the difference. So that's why they're chasing the hawkers, so that they can be able to manage who has infiltrated them. We also know that some border riders are security agencies. So could this be the notion of chasing the hawkers? And what is your thought on this?
Well, again, that is playing to the symptoms. Insecurity in Uganda is such a multifaceted affair. So let's address the symptom that government is proposing, and saying that because there is a border or Hawkeye border here and there, they could easily, I suspect, maybe they are thinking they can easily begin to demonstrate and one day cause civil disobedience. That is the only insecurity that those people could become, by being part of a demonstration in the city against bad governance. That's a possibility. But my thinking is that the real cause of insecurity in this country is bigger than demonstrations, activism, or defiance. It's bigger than that. Here is what I think. One, first of all, as long as the poor don't have what to eat, one day they will fight. They will turn around and become the real insecurity. You can chase, you will try to kill, you will try to beat. They will be there because they are hungry. Their children have not gone to school. They will all be there. And I'm telling you, no amounts of bullets will disperse them. You saw what's happened in Khartoum. The army did whatever they could do. They said, staying at home, we die. Being here, we die. They behaved like the other lepers when there was a siege in Samaria. Government is actually creating a siege in the country. And so one day the lepers, the hungry, the what? The poor will decide and say, whether we get locked up in the house, we will die of hunger. We are better off going there, and then they kill us. And that will be an explosion in terms of security. So that's the notion I advise government to be careful about. The second thing about it is that government itself has created insecurity in this country, serious insecurity, apart from that one that has developed over time. The government of Uganda, being in charge of the coercive instruments of state, has created all manner of paramilitary apparatus in the country. And they have armed them. During the time of General Kale Kaihura, they came up with a group called crime preventers. And then they gave them guns upon guns. I have waited to this date. I haven't seen a situation where the crime preventers have been disarmed and they have been reported, whether maybe by the media, that they have returned the guns. I haven't seen them. So my assumption is that there is an army there of crime preventers, which is not held accountable institutionally and publicly, but it is there, managed by something or somebody, or everybody for himself, but at least having a gun. That is one. Secondly, the army, I mean, the government of Uganda, way back in 2005, there was a report made to the Parliament of Uganda when we were pushing and pushing hard on the Karamoja disarmament question. And it was admitted on the Hansard, I don't remember by which minister. The minister said, it is true, we armed the Karachuna, the vigilantes, but hoping that they would defend themselves. Instead, they moved around with the guns to attack Teso. So those guns are also there. Here in this country, there are people you see groundnut sellers the other day of the bomb blast. There is a lady who has been selling groundnuts in around the CPS there. All of a sudden, she turned around and she had an AK-47. So we don't know whose army that one is. So government has been distributing guns, and I don't think they can account for the guns that are in the public domain. And so they have caused gross insecurity in this country. First, to individuals who are unarmed, but secondly, if they do not do their appeasement processes very well and cause the people whom they armed to be at peace, perpetually at peace with them, then they have every reason to fear, because the guns will come out someday. That is the other bit of it. The last bit of it for me, which is at the core of insecurity in this nation, is the arrogance of the Museveni regime, treating every political dissent as if it is rubbish. It is something that you can't listen to. Dissenting views in this country are so unacceptable. You don't have room to express. People bottle their anger, even political anger. People have no opportunity to have to express their feelings. And so here is what happens. You speak politically, and then they say, okay, now you Segrinya, Sewanyana, you are murderers, you are locked up. What do they think about the relatives of those people? You think that, for instance, that constituency like Makige, because they have their MP inside, they will be dancing and clapping and saying, yeah, hey, Museveni, you did us very well, you locked our MP. No, you are creating anger, you are creating resentment, you're creating bitterness, and they have created it. They have created it. So when it comes to managing issues of, say, arresting suspects, the police in this country will go and get a suspect that had you Makindi, had you K something, I've forgotten the name. And you shoot on sight, and then people come and doctor the story. You find all the spin masters of Onopondo, my friend Chris Bariomunsi, and anybody who talks for the NRM. You find all of them saying, you see, the man was trying to resist arrest. I listened to that story with pain, and so I had to follow to inquire as a leader. I said, so what exactly happened? And I found out that the man was shot in the full view of his children. Now, it doesn't matter how long you coach that story. Forever, the children know the truth. The mother knows the truth. The neighbors know the truth, that their father did not even resist. He was already handcuffed. Somebody just shot. So government has spent the bulk of its time creating bitterness in the population. By removing, the other aspect of it is by removing all possibility of political change in the country. First, you remove term limits. People say, what's going wrong? Before you know, people pray, okay, let him reach 75 years. He will also go. You come, you remove that one. People say, okay, let's wait now. Maybe at 75, he can't run around the country. Now again, you say, okay, all Ugandans, we don't want you to be the voters. Now we want to bring in a parliamentary system. A few individuals will come and decide for you. You create despair in the population, and a very desperate population is not good to have. It is not a secure population. So that is what the government of Uganda should be fearing every day, not hungry hawkers. The behavior, it has systematically created insecurity in the country. The last bit of my thoughts concerning insecurity in this country is the hotspots of unresolved conflicts in this nation. In northern Uganda, you have that issue of the Upper Land, which government is playing the Acholi against the Madi, and that's dangerous. Because a normal government should come out and take a very clear position and enforce it. They haven't. The land grabbings in this country, people try to express themselves in Mayuge in an election, and government channels their billions of money, the whole prime minister, the army, you turn. I met those APCs in military vehicles heading to Mayuge, and I thought, is this about an LC5 election? Is this about something else? So you create a hotspot in Mayuge, you create a hotspot in Serere, the way my people were killed and beaten in 2016. You ask yourself, is it about one woman going to open her mouth and make one negative comment in parliament, or there is something? So by creating hotspots of conflict and unrest in the country, government has created bigger insecurity than merely the fear they have of some hawker and some vendor and some border.
Honorable, and I'm glad you exhaustively put the security question there, and you also elaborated on different issues that contribute to this insecurity issue there. But also I wanted to move to something that you've hinted on. You talked about the anger, the despair that is within the population. Does government feel the same that you're feeling, the temperature of the population there? Do they have their fingers to be able to feel that? And what is failing them to be able to know where the population is and how much of this temperature is rising, both in anger and despair there? And what's your view on how to manage it moving forward so that we don't have an outburst or a repeat of what happened before we had this constitution in 1995 there?
Well, the management of the anger and the despair in the Ugandan population is entirely in the hands of those who have the governance mandate. And that is the NRM regime headed by President Yoweri Museveni and his team of leaders. It is up to them to manage anger in the population. Unfortunately, I think they feel it, they see it, they sense it. That's why you see all those machinations of having armies that are not accountable, having heavy-handed police and harassing the vendors. All those machinations are a sign that they actually know that there is an angry and desperate population out there. Now, the problem is that their approach to managing it is only exacerbates the situation. They seem to be making an already bad situation worse. And I don't think that the Kampala regime has the capacity to reverse the excesses. So the government has ushered itself into a survival mode. And in the survival mode, the only language they understand is now coercion, using the instruments of force to subdue dissent, to subdue protests, to subdue alternative thinking, to subdue possibilities of change of government. That is the only thing they are doing. And I can guarantee that they will fail. There will be an implosion. Human nature is such that once you push them, humans behave like cats. When a cat gets so desperate and against the wall and you're trying to clobber it, it will make a jump, knowing that it will, if it doesn't fight, it will die. If it fights, it may still die. So that's human nature from, all the history we have learned of the French Revolution, those days, of the Arab Spring, of, well, these people who went to Luero tell us all their stories. They say things were so bad in the country when they have even made them worse. So, so when that happens, human nature is such that they will rise up and act in a manner as to survive beyond the operation. So it's not on us. Our task at this stage is just to keep voicing caution to government and telling them it is time you listen to Ugandans, and to the extent possible, it is time, President Museveni, you have played so long on this stage that we can actually say, without listening to a speech from you, we can say 3/4 of what you're going to tell us. And because of that, there is nothing new you are offering us. It is time to compare with the region around. Kenya has had, I don't know how many changes, and the country is moving in a positive direction. Tanzania has had changes, even though the changes are within the same political party. But sometimes they bring in some little fresh air, some new idea from the new person within the same political party. So we are urging President Museveni to stop thinking that his one-man vision, which he has had all these 36 years, can still drive this nation. It has become stale, and it is only leading us to doom.
Honorable, even as we switch topics there to be able to come to one of the biggest crises that we saw coming since last year. Fuel started rising last year. It kept on rising. Taxes were slapped on fuel, both on diesel and petrol last year, to a stampede that happened on the border, and allegedly due to COVID testing, 110,000, or we should say $30 there. But also another statement coming in from UR is saying the machine to check had failed at the border there. They decided to get one from Elegu to bring it here. But also some corridors have had it that brands refuse to bring in their fuel. A bit of protest there on the prices there. And the end product is that these taxes are slapped on the consumer, a taxi driver, a border rider there. What's your view on this fuel crisis? And as of yesterday, I tried to move around to see what's happening. Some fuel stations up to today have no fuel. Yet we know as of last week, government promised that fuel tankers are coming. The price is not coming down. The crisis seems to be still going on there. And it seems to be biting since foodstuff and everything in this country works on fuel. What's ANT's stand on this, and how do we get past this impasse as a population?
So we need to, concerning the fuel crisis, I think we need to get some basic facts in the region. One, that even before the fuel crisis we now see, the pump price in Uganda was higher than the pump price in Rwanda and Burundi. That is for a fact. And so nobody will argue landlocked or land connection or land anything. It was something about the management of the dynamics internally within Uganda. And so we had posted higher fuel prices. I think we were only next to South Sudan. I've forgotten my data because we addressed a press conference at that time. So that's one. Two, again, before the fuel crisis you see now, around November, October last year, the fuel dealers had voiced a concern because URA, the Uganda Revenue Authority, was due to levy an additional 100 shillings on every liter of fuel that they were going to bring in. They were about to effect that. That is the background to this fuel crisis. And let me hasten to add that the big challenge that we face in Uganda is a very narrow tax base. Very, very narrow tax base. To the extent that whenever government realizes shortfalls, all they think about is how do we get more from the same sources of tax that we have. And so they go for fuel, they go for internet, they go for transportation, they go for, shops in Chikubo, retailers and wholesalers. That is how the Uganda government gets the tax. Our argument at the ANT has been diversify the tax base. But you see, the ability to diversify the tax base is limited because of the weaknesses in the production sector. Industrialization is still very limited in Uganda. And they also, the way they manage the industrial growth in this country is such that some people get tax exemptions. Some investors get unusual exemptions. You don't even know for what, and you don't know how they are given. The question of tax exemptions is something that the Ministry of Finance has refused to streamline for a long time, but it is given at the whims and the wishes of either the president or those that are connected. So diversifying is one big challenge. Growing the production sector is the other big challenge. We've talked about the way agriculture is in this country. We've talked about how the country has failed to grow the tourism potential. It's amazing how much potential we have in terms of tourism. And if tapped into, and if grown, if expanded, if advertised, I don't think we'll be thinking about taxing the fuel dealers every other day, an additional 100 shillings, an additional this and an additional that. And then the other bit of it is that, so instead of taxing profits from these corporate organizations, the government of Uganda then levies a direct tax on the products. And so the moment they levy a direct tax on the product, say levy it on a liter of fuel, like that additional 100 shillings, those people just sit back, as they say, sit back and relax in a plane. So they simply sit back and say, okay, that 100 shillings, will roll it soft down until it finds the border in Kalangala to the final consumer. And before you know, the prices on the pump are on a free roll. Okay, we add 100 shillings, and then the dealer here adds 100 shillings, and then the retailer adds 100 shillings, and then it goes until it reaches that woman who in the night today in Luero has a pressure to deliver and has to pay to be carried by border to the hospital. That is when the 100 shillings will be paid. Our thinking as the ANT when it comes to taxes is about diversification, increasing production, and then also dealing more with the corporate taxes. Those organizations make huge profits from this country, and they siphon it away. MTN siphons it away. And I think that government Anyway, this government cannot be advised, because instead of doing that taxing for our good, they will find a way of turning around during campaigns and ask MTN, ask Shell or Total or whoever to oil their campaign machinery from the direct profits. And so they lose the moral authority to tax those benefits, those profits for the common good of all Ugandans. So I don't know whether I'm revolving around one thing, the leadership question.
And you say it very well with the leadership question there. And it brings me to the decision we made as a country moving forward, the liberalization of the economy. What do you think about that? What does Ant say about this? Because some of the things that have been said is because there has been a high demand with parents taking children to school, consumption of fuel has gone up. They also, they're pointing fingers at a barrel of fuel going up on the global market. The liberalization of this economy, there are terminals there that are just causing it to just spiral out of order. What's the stand of ANT, and how I've seen economies like Kenya, Tanzania, have a protectionism of eggs and chicken, products like that, sugar and rice. When they have a surplus, they hold on to what is in their country and withhold what shouldn't be coming into their country. What should we be doing as a country, especially in such a scenario?
Well, so first to note that we are part of the global economy. And so liberalizing a number of aspects of our economy is the thing to do, so that forces of demand and supply determine the marketing, the pricing. That is normal to start with. But you see, a government does not just exist for the sake of, oh, so yes, now we are watching, we are now watching what the market forces will do when no, that's not a government. So every government in the world, while they have agreed to liberalization, have maintained a control over areas of strategic interest in the country. And they have also taken decisions that run parallel even to some liberalized areas in the economy. So we are talking here, for instance, about the transport sector. In the transport sector, you want everybody to be able to pull out their bus, their taxi, and then so on and so forth. But there are areas where there have been strategic investments by the state. So you have a railway network running all over the country, which is far, far cheaper. So we can move things to the market. And when we have to compete with the taxis, when we have to compete with the lorries, when we have to compete with the buses, we have this strategic investment, a functional railway system that helps us to move our children. They get in a train from Soroti to Kampala, and they simply pay 5,000 shillings. Now tell me why my daughter will get into a bus in the liberalized sector of 40,000 shillings. So government should not hide under liberalization. What the government of Uganda has done is to put the economy, again for their very selfish reasons, on autopilot. So that anybody drives it whichever direction they want. And at the ANT, our thinking is that when it comes to matters of the economy, especially areas of strategic importance, generation of electricity, we will not allow Ugandans, we will not let Ugandans to be, completely taken at ransom. There will be interventions, maybe at generation level, and then the kind of contracts, agreements that are negotiated. You negotiate another agreement like let's get to reflect on power generation in this country. The agreements that the government of Uganda under the context of liberalization as negotiated for the production of electricity are terrible, to the extent that you commit the nation that if the water levels run low, the losses are on us. You know, no shared responsibility. To the extent that you commit that if power is not bought, the losses are on us. Now, what type of contracts are these? I know that in yesteryears, probably like 8 or 10 behind there was even some escrow account, which was not being even audited by the Auditor General. At my time as PAC chairperson, we had to try put pressure on the Auditor General to audit the escrow account where government of Uganda was depositing our money every other time, purportedly for dealing with possible shocks concerning the contracts with the ESCOM, UMEME, and whatever. And the public is completely ignorant about it. We are all there, and they keep hiking the price which we, the consumers, pay. You wake up one morning, your car prices have gone up. There has to be a hand of government in bringing about some controls. If it is not controls, it has to be creating an atmosphere where there is healthy competition so that the monopoly doesn't kill the ordinary citizen. We are so obsessed with that feeling about ordinary Ugandans. I guess that is why at the ANTO we put the people first for a new future. Because until somebody unpacks that feeling that the people have to be at the center of the decisions that will make in leadership, their well-being comes first. I'm telling you, you will contract somebody and literally mortgage the country. You will get them to repair or build another terminal at the airport, and you mortgage the airport to Chinese. That is terrible.
You know, you speak about an escrow account. It's not the first time we're hearing it. Even the airport, we hear about the Chinese and the amount of money that was given in that escrow account. But up to today, we have not got any audit for it there. But Honorable, let's keep with the economy. How it becomes difficult for Ugandans, even as resilient as they are, to get back and try to strive, get their businesses back after all this COVID-19 pandemic ravaging the country, left, right, and center there. How should this economy be handled moving forward? Unfortunately, one of the person that has been in the driver's seat has passed on. So we have questions there on how the economy is going to be driven. The reserves, we have questions about it. This economy seems to be driving in autopilot, like you call it, but we seem to be passing our destination. And instead of going to Addis Ababa, we look like we're going to Khartoum or furthermore that side. How do we bring back this economy to harness it that it is for the people first? Because Article 1 of the Constitution says the power belongs to the people. Do the people in this country still have power?
Well, so Timothy, when we bypass our destination, the fuel is going to get finished. And when it gets finished, we are going to crash. The economy is going to crash. And when it crashes, then we will pick up the pieces from there and say, okay, so what can be done? Yes, but well, what is our economy like? I mean, I'm not an economist. I am actually basically a social worker, a historian or something like that. And a teacher and a preacher of the gospel of Christ for the salvation of mankind. That's what I am. But let me give you my perspectives. What is the characteristic of our economy? What I see around me is that we have a border economy. At least that's what I see. I don't know what people see. I see a boda economy. I see a chapati, Rolex economy. I see alcohol bar economy. Those are things that I see around me. I also see a lot of subsistence. That is what describes my economy around Serere. And so I don't see many people who can afford more than $1, 3,000 or 4,000 shillings a day. Around my locality, it's from hand to mouth, as they say it. So I do not know where the resilience package is. I do not know where the reserves are. And my thinking, or probably again our thinking as the ANT, has been that post-COVID, or from the lockdowns, because well, COVID still seems to be rotating around. So, but from the opening up of the economy, there should have been a deliberate effort to put in place a stimulus package. And that stimulus package should have targeted certain core areas. What are those core areas? The areas of local investment, the medium investor, areas of say tourism, areas of educational investment. Let me just give you an illustration from educational investment. If somebody has a school, and the school has about 600 students, the linkages in that school, one, there should be about at least 40 teachers employed in that school. There should be at least about 30 support staff, askaris, cooks, couriers, cleaners, about 40 employed in that school. Then in terms of linkages, that school should at least consume about maybe 6 bags of posho every day, 3 bags of beans every day. And so you can be sure, and then they use firewood, and then they use water, and then they do this and the other. So that entity of a private investor in a school would have direct linkages with the farmer, with the supplier, with the transporter who brings food, with the parents who bring children. And those are areas where we thought that the stimulus package for reviving the economy would target. So something like 30, 50 or so million shillings to restart. Unfortunately, the mindset of the government of Uganda is not the same. Instead of stimulating those ones, it looks like I had the Minister of Finance, he actually said, if you cannot restart your school, sell it. And so you have people getting out of employment, you have children, now running to, overcrowd, compounding the COVID situation, overcrowding in the primary schools. I was listening to something about Busia schools, where over 10 private schools have not reopened. And so the public school now has to absorb. Now tell me you're fighting COVID by bringing all the children from the 10 private schools into the public schools. That is not fighting COVID at all. And so then we thought that the stimulus package would target agriculture, because agriculture is one area that is very difficult to close during lockdown. It doesn't close. We still have to go to the garden. We still have to feed. So investment into water for production is a critical area in this country, because we have the soils, we have the land, we have the capacity, we have good crops. But you see, we have to wait until it rains. So water for production, mini irrigation schemes all over the country would be a very good stimulus package for the agricultural sector. I've talked about tourism. That's where our strength and our economic advantage lies. So our thinking is up to now that to revive this economy, there should be areas that are prioritized: agriculture, education, health delivery, and tourism, the tourist sector, and job creation and skilling. Once you do that, the economy should be on its feet again. Unfortunately, I don't know where the money is going. What was the last time I heard? I think the State House wanted some money to do what? Something to run State House. And the last time we give them a lot of money, by the way, as so to ensure that, as in animal farm, to ensure that the pigs are well looked after. As in animal farm, my mother would cane me if I was saying that outside animal farm. I'm just using the language in animal farm. So to ensure that the pigs that run the animal farm are well looked after and then they think well for us. So that's where the bulk of the money goes. And the other bit of it is to service the patronage machine, the huge cost of public administration. And, soon enough, every sub-county will have a member of parliament, every county will be a district. And let me tell you, all the LC5 chairpersons are complaining they have no money to deliver services. They have no money, but they have offices. And it's expected that Ugandans are happy about that huge cost of public administration, which is not acceptable. And then the other bit of it is that, so while we are ensuring that the leaders are happy, they eat well, they sleep well, they even procure huge loans on every sitting of parliament. They are borrowing. The country is heavily indented. And that heavy indebtedness has serious implications for this economic stability and the security of this nation. We've talked about Entebbe Airport because we borrowed money and we are unable to begin remitting, paying our installments on time. And this money, like many other loans, are accruing huge interest. And our children who, unfortunately, the government of Uganda kept locked down for 2 years, while UNICEF and UNESCO and everybody in the whole world reopened their schools, will be expected to pay that money. You see how tragic the situation is. But anyhow, we have this government, and that's how they run their affairs. There's not much we can do in the ANT. We made that proposal already on how to direct the stimulus package, on how to cut down on heavy indebtedness. We've made those proposals. We made proposals repeatedly on how to fight corruption. The amount of leakage, the resources this country is losing to the corrupt would fix a Beam Hospital, would fix Serere, would fix Luero, would fix Nakasongola, would fix Budaka, Omansimbi. It would fix all those hospitals.
And I'm glad you have said that about the hospitals, because the last integrity report that came from the IGG's office was about 10 trillion shillings that we lose annually to corruption in this country. But our last topic of discussion, because time is running short there, but I also see comments coming through. Please send your comments through on the different platforms. We're on Zoom, we're on MySpaces there, on Twitter, and also we are on YouTube and Facebook there. If you drop your comments there, we'll be able to get them and react to them. I see two have come through, and one says, indeed, cities must develop with their people. Honorable Alaso, I see agreement here from Ambassador Edith there. She continues to say, for the government to be effective, to have effective, for government to effectively market the country for tourism, first they must stop torturing people, which has become the brand of the government there. And I think she's prompting us to have a discussion on Kakwenza there, but let me leave Kakwenza and pick up something that is really brewing. General Muhoozi goes to Rwanda, meets His Excellency Paul Kagame, seems to have a discussion there. An SFC officer is released. We seem to have also got a notice as of last night from the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Internal Affairs of Rwanda telling us Gatuna and Katuna borders will be open on the 31st of January. What was the problem that this border was closed 3 years ago? And also, does that mean the problem has been resolved? As aunt, has this problem been resolved? Because also we also had reshuffles. General Kandiho moving to South Sudan, General James Birungi being brought back, General Godfrey Tumsime moving to police, a private being promoted to a major and now going to head CID, Tom Magambo there. Please put this in perspective for us there.
Timothy, that's quite a mouthful. I think I'll do with additional prompts as we go along. But let's start with the Rwanda-Uganda relations. Rwanda-Uganda have a long history, as you know, including the changes that happened in Uganda that led to the changes that happened in Rwanda. So that's a very, very long history. But also, it is only in Uganda, I think Uganda is the only country in the world where nationals from another country have officially been put in the constitution as a tribe in another country. So in Uganda here, we have a tribe called the Rwandese, and yet Rwanda is another country. So that goes to underscore that there is a serious interconnection between the two countries. And the peoples are here, you just walk across and you come back today, even voting, once in a while when they feel like voting in Uganda, they come here, they vote, and then they go back. So we are the same and one people across the border. So you ask me, so what was the problem? All along, we thought the problem was between the two principles, to be honest with you. We thought that the problem was between President Paul Kagame and the President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. What is the other name of the elections? Tibu or something. That one. So we thought so. And the way this conflict has been resolved overnight maybe vindicates us that the two people knew what they were quarreling about, and the moment they agreed the other night, the whole thing de-escalated. And they have never come to tell us what the problem is. President Paul Kagame has never told us what the real problem is, and President Yoweri Museveni has also never told us what the real problem is. Therefore, we are right to conclude that it was their personalities and the way they have resolved it. It is also a proof that it must have been a personal problem. We are happy to have the conflict or the tensions resolved. Why? Because our market in Rwanda and the Rwandese market in Uganda, the economic relations between the two were really very, very significant and extremely important. And therefore, when the Katuna border was closed, we must have made such huge losses in terms of what would accrue both for exports and importation, whichever way you look at it. So we are happy to have the issue resolved. Yesterday or the other day, President Museveni talked about a civilian not being able to run this country. And then we read that to be a pointer that maybe we are beginning to get a clue into what he thinks about the Muhoozi project. And so when we watched General Muhoozi being the one to go there and de-escalate the tensions, maybe we are being told that this is how things are supposed to unfold. Those could be signals. I could be misreading them. But whatever it is, we would like to, if that is being used to portray to us that General Muhoozi is the person coming in next as a part of the entrenchment of the monarchy, we would like to inform President Museveni that that is the wrong way to go. And it portends instability and insecurity in the country because you're talking about rapid promotions. And I know that this is a subject that we are always cautioned, you don't talk, if you talk, they will come for you. So I'm praying that the good Lord will protect me and keep my head on my neck. But it is good to advise the president that please don't impose anybody on the nation, and create room for the nation to make a decision post you. And that's what we've been asking him from 2005 when the term limits were being removed. We said, no, we would like to make a decision. When the age limit was being removed the other day, we said, as a country, we would like to make a decision. Please don't impose it on us. We were trying to believe the fact that President Museveni came in to usher a democratic dispensation for the country, not to create a monarchy for the nation. And we still hope that in these moments where we know the evening is closer than the morning for him, we hope that he can hear the desire of the nation so that something remains. There's something that we would like to remain, because the government of Uganda under President Museveni has done more or less everything to undo the Museveni legacy. When we will finally reflect and look back at the Museveni legacy, we will have a lot of struggle to find things to hold on to, which, so it's possible that the only thing that we could cling on to is if the country remains intact the day he exits and after he has exited. And that can only be done by leaving Ugandans an opportunity to determine who their next leadership is going to be. That's one perception I have about the things. The second one is you talked about the changes in the CID, in the police, in the what. Well, I want to perceive that changes are in order and for good reasons. The one thing that I don't understand, and please really, really excuse my ignorance here, is why, okay, now I think I understand. Why would President Museveni be so obsessed in killing civilian policing and substituting what would have been the civil police force, the traditional police force fabric, with the military? He has the options. He can now ban and say there is no more police force. What we have is a military UPDF something. So we know it is one institution, because every other time you wake up one morning, it is general this. The other one, it is general so. Now it is, what is this? It was captain or sergeant so and so promoted to remove a civilian head of CID. And that speaks volumes in the character of policing in Uganda as we talk now. The character of policing in this country is so militarized Every time you meet a policeman or woman on the road, you don't know, are you talking to a real policing person or you're talking to a military policing person but dressed like a policeman or policewoman? And again, I think it has to do with killing institutions, which this government has done very well. Killed the judiciary, took cadres to the judiciary and destroyed the judiciary. Now you can't talk about judicial independence in Uganda. You have to have prayed and fasted, maybe even 50 days, not just 40 days, to run into a judicial officer who will make a decision about you, especially a political decision about you, without influence from the powers that run this country. So the judiciary, parliament, you know how parliament is now constituted. You sit on one side and army generals are sitting there looking at you, reading your mouth even before you say a word. And during elections, how they will descend, how they will beat generals coming to beat pregnant women in Serere. I am still amazed at that, and I am still engaging God on that one. A general coming to beat pregnant women, to abduct little children, because Alice Alaso wants votes. Generals intervening at the announcement of election results in Jinja East. You know, when I hear people saying, ANT, you didn't win, you are so weak, you couldn't even get one member of parliament. And I reflect on the result DR forms, which Honorable Muiru has up to today. He is the winner. All the DR forms, you total them, he is the winner. But because the military took over the announcement of results, what did you want him to do? You wanted him to be shot dead. Would rather have him alive outside parliament than a dead body of somebody who was declared a member of parliament. So the Electoral Commission is taken over by the military. No independence. They now have that word independent. I think we need to find a definition of that word independent as far as the issue of Uganda is concerned. And then you have Parliament of Uganda, and you have the executive, you have extension services where we should be distributing seeds, people who studied agriculture, diploma in Busitema, diploma in Namulonge, degree in agriculture, botany and zoology. They should be the ones teaching farmers. Now the army is there. So I understand the idea is to kill the institutions and to create a complete military outfit in charge of all civilian affairs in the country. And again, that is not good. Maybe that is the notion of China and Northern Korea and something like that, but it is not good. It is running away from everything that the NRM went to the bush to do or claimed they were going to do. And now they are doing exactly the opposite of that. What was the other one you were prompting? I said you'd have to prompt me on that same.
You have actually touched it, the militarization of especially institutions like police that are supposed to be dealing with civilians. But also when we look at, is now General Muhoozi the new de facto Minister of Foreign Affairs? Did the Ambassador Areva fail? Is he successful where others have failed? And what is the trajectory of what General Muhoozi is being pushed into? Or are we being distracted by all this smoke and yet we need to find the fire?
Well, over years, I have learned that the way the NRM does it, things is to throw it there and then see what happens. After a month, throw again and see what happens. Before you know, you get used to it. They deny everything. They said, no, we can't tamper with the Constitution. Then they tampered with it. Age limits. And then they tampered with it. Now they are in a denial mode. They are checking whether the parliamentary thing will work. And then Ugandans are There are some Ugandans who never learn anything anyway. So they are all over the place saying, Mzee cannot do that. Then after that, they will say, for us, when Mzee says, we will follow. But long and short, whatever is happening concerning Rwanda, concerning General Muhoozi, concerning his deployment, being a soldier, whatever it is, what is important to us as Ugandans is that we would like to have the right to determine our next leader. Yes, that is where we want to be able to exercise our freedoms. And that is our prayer also for the stability of this nation, really, because if General Muhoozi will be imposed on us, it will be a tragedy for the country. That is my take on that segment. The real fire is elsewhere. Well, there have always been fires in this country, and you keep going bit by bit and crossing every bridge as you get there. But I think I want to urge Ugandans not just to sit back. It is important that Ugandans begin to contribute to the democratic process in this country. I have seen Ugandans, there's a good number of Ugandans who are good people, who could contribute to changing things in this country by bringing in their building blocks. They are too good even to step in LC1 elections. They don't want to, they don't want to touch, they don't want to make a comment, they don't even want to write an article on social media to educate their own relatives that the direction the country is taking is bad. So they are sitting there with all their goodness. And I'm encouraging Ugandans, please get that goodness into the leadership equation of this country, and let's begin to deploy it. Begin to teach your relatives vote protection. Begin to teach your relatives the importance of speaking up. Begin to teach your children not to be, corrupted and bribed with sweets. Do something, that's one. Two, offer yourself and do some form of leadership. Offer yourself and be a member of a team like the ANT, which if you believe that we are the right people who can steer this country through a transition, offer yourself support the processes. In Uganda, people will bash you. I saw something in the monitor of yesterday. Somebody is complaining we are not moving at a pace that he expected. But I can bet you that person has never sent a shilling to the ANT, even a shilling as in 1 shilling Uganda coin, to contribute towards buying stationery. So if you want change, you have to invest in it. If you want to change for the better, you have to be part and parcel of the process. And that's my argument to Ugandans. Then there is a whole bulk of good Ugandans called Christians. Christians, religious people. They are too good, they don't even want to pray. When you meet them, they say we are praying. But check them, they eat from January to December every day. They don't pray over this nation. Esther prayed and fasted to save her people. If we want change, Christians pray. Muslims pray seriously so that we have a change in this country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Alaso. We have run out of time. I'll give you a minute to be able to give your closing remarks. And then if there's any comment, if you want to ask a question, I'll just make sure that is within the next 5 minutes so that we can be able to close. You just shoot your hand up or drop your comment, and then I'll be getting to it. Your parting shots, Honorable Alaso.
So first of all, thank you for this opportunity, Timothy and the team that has been behind the scenes. We are extremely grateful for this, but I would like to conclude this whole discussion by saying that Ugandans must have hope, and then we must work on two things. The first thing, as we keep hope alive in ourselves, the first thing is we must work together to get out the dictatorship. Each one of us in your various sectors and your political parties, we may not agree on everything with the FDC, with NUP, with JEMA, but at least there is that bare minimum where we are agreed on. So you do your best where you are. We'll also do our best where we are. The sum total of our efforts should be able to bring about the change we want. Secondly, we don't also want to reach there without preparing for what we will do when we reach there. So these two, as far as the ANT is concerned, must run concurrently. And thirdly, as I have just said, I'd like to urge you to make a contribution. We need some finances to do this type of activity, and a contribution as small as 1,000 shillings monthly to the ANT on our platforms will help us. A contribution of your time as a volunteer to do work on social media, work on mainstream media, work here and there, recruiting, talking, highlighting messages. Even if you don't send money, that's even a bigger contribution. And lastly, let us pray for this country, that God will remember us. There is no situation that is permanent that God will not change. And I know that 98% of us are religious people, whether Muslims, whether Christians, whether wherever. We believe that there is a God somewhere who should help us in this. So I want to thank you all. And yes, thank you indeed. And may the good Lord bless you as we work together to change the political culture of this nation.
I want to thank Honorable Alaso for having this conversation with us, but also on the different platforms that you have been watching us or listening to us. My spaces on Twitter, we apologize, it kept going on and off. For those that were there, I will make sure that some of these recordings get there, but also the ones that were on YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom here. Thank you for being part of this conversation. I hope it has enriched you to be able to do something about this country, because as Honorable Alaso has said, let's keep hope alive. But all of us here are here because we believe in this country. So these conversations happen monthly. So please endeavor that you get to know when exactly it's happening. They're posted on the different Alliance for National Transformation platforms. Please endeavor to go there and see when they're happening. They'll be hosted by different media personalities to be able to get perspective, different perspectives. Please endeavor that you were there. But from us, till next time, God bless you and have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Timothy.
Great.